Now, the National Assembly is deep in the process of amending the 1999 Constitution, a process that involves public hearings, consultations, and the review of literally thousands of proposals. But for many Nigerians, that constitution that's under review is an illegitimate document that's incapable of addressing Nigeria's challenges. Therefore, attempts to amend it, according to them, are futile. In fact, as the renowned constitutional lawyer Mike Ozekeme put it, no amount of tweaking can fix what he called a fundamentally flawed foundation. You cannot amend a bad document, he says. He and his fellow patriots are calling for and working on a complete constitutional reset, a fresh constitutional beginning. They warn that unless Nigeria discards its current constitution in favor of a truly people-driven document that reflects its ethnic, cultural, and religious diversity, it'll remain stuck in a cycle of what he calls dysfunction and stagnation. So, what does the National Assembly think of all this as it continues with its constitution amendment process? Well, for more of this, I'm joined now from our studios in Lagos by the Deputy Chief Whip of the Senate and member of the Senate Committee on Constitutional Review, Senator Nwebonyi Peter. Senator, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to talk to us. I'm sure you're aware that eminent Nigerians, including the likes of the former President Olusegun Obasanjo, former Commonwealth Secretary General Emeka Anyaoku, former Speaker of the House of Representatives Aminu Tambuwal, a whole slew of former governors, traditional rulers, senior lawyers, and many professionals who make up the group called the Patriots are calling for a complete overhaul of the 1999 Constitution, calling it an imposed instrument of the military and insisting that its components do not fit in with democratic principles. I mean, what's your reaction to that as a member of the Senate committee that's charged with reviewing that constitution that they criticize?
Well, thank you so very much for the opportunity to make my contribution on this very important national issue. Like we all know, the 1999 Constitution was inherited from the military dictatorship that ushered in the Fourth Republic in 1999. And as such, there are these clamors from different quarters that this Constitution does not represent the interests of entire Nigerians. Hence, they need to amend same. In line with this clarion call from prominent Nigerians, like aforementioned, this constitution had before now received 5 different alterations at different times within different parliaments. So, because of the persistent call to further amend the constitution, the 10th National Assembly, under the chairmanship of Senator Godswill Akpabio, and of course his brother, the Speaker of House of Reps, constituted a committee, a standing committee, to galvanize and collect all these new inputs of Nigerians so that we can go further to amend the constitution. Consequently, these committees from the 2 chambers devolved into zones, to go and get inputs from the people regarding the further amendment of this very important document, being the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I happen to head that of Southeast Zone, which took place between the 4th and 5th day of July 2025 at Enugu, the capital city of Enugu State. And I must tell you, it was a beautiful outing, considering the attendance, ranging from government representatives from the Southeast Zone, NGOs, women groups, and what have you. I must tell you, it was a very beautiful experience wherein people came out to ventilate their views as we amend the Constitution.
Yeah, well, that's very interesting. I think where there is a fundamental difference is the fact that the patriots are saying that the document is so fundamentally flawed that it doesn't matter how you tweak it, which essentially is what you're doing with a constitution amendment and reviews and so on, that it doesn't matter how you tweak it, you really can't fix it. That what you need is a complete constitutional reset and a fresh constitutional beginning. In other words, a completely different document. What is your reaction to that?
Well, that is their view. But for me, I don't think that every aspect of the Constitution is bad. No, I disagree. Though they are our leaders, they're entitled to their own personal opinions. But for me, I think that substantial part of the Constitution can still stand the test of time, whereas some areas can be tinkered with as we forge on with our development. So because law shouldn't be static, law should be amended from time to time to meet the needs of the society. For example, if you allow me, among the issues that were canvassed during the summit is the issue of state police and the state creation, wherein the people of Southeast are saying in one voice that it is time that Nigeria as a nation look up to them and consider giving Southeast, additional one state, at least to balance up with other geopolitical zones. So these are most of the German issues that affects, the people of Southeast. So I disagree with the position that the entire constitution should be completely discarded. I don't agree with that. I am of the opinion that those sections that need to be, altered should be altered, while those sections that still stand test of time, should be retained.
But I suppose the question, Senator, is how do you tinker with something that is supposed to represent a quintessential democratic document, but then it did not emanate from a democratic sort of background or origin. It was imposed on Nigerians by a military dictatorship. And the argument is that that constitution is not inclusive enough. It doesn't take into account the plurality of Nigeria or even the democracy of this country because it wasn't democratically formulated. And therefore, it's not going to be able to properly address in a root and branch manner the many challenges that this country faces. I mean, surely they have a point.
Well, I'm not saying that their points are not germane, but the point is clear, like I said, and even the process is very open. If some people feel that every sections, should be amended and replaced with a new provision, I think that this is another opportunity, because as I speak, we have over 59 bills pending before the Senate calling for the alteration of one section or the other of the 1999 Constitution. So the amendment is limitless. So in as much as some provisions are not in tandem with what will help Nigerians to grow, the floor is open for such a citizen to come up with a bill, seeking for amendment of all these sections. But I am saying, and I'm still saying, that not every aspect of the Constitution should be thrown away. There must be some part that will be retained. So, and it is better for us to look at those areas that are not good enough and tinker with it and make new provisions. That it is entirely the product of the military does not mean that they are completely bad. After all, most of the infrastructures we're enjoying today were the product of the military. I can name them. So it doesn't matter with the source of the Constitution. What matters to me is the content of the Constitution, because equity looks at the intent and not the form.
Right. Now, the Patriots say that when they finish their constitutional summit, that they're going to put together their thoughts, their ideas, and the result of what they came up with and submit it to the National Assembly. Would the Assembly be prepared
Yes.
to assess what they bring before it?
Definitely, definitely. Like I said, our doors are open for inputs. Even as I'm talking to you, the bills are the reason from 59 to about 72 bills. So we will be willing to welcome the input from such prominent Nigerians because they know better than us and they must rely on their fatherly advice.
Well, I'm glad you said that. That's a very hopeful thing there for ordinary Nigerians who are looking for a way to move this country forward. And do you agree, Senator, with the former President Olusegun Obasanjo that the imperfections of the current constitution are made much worse by the fact that the operators of the Constitution, including the leadership, elected officials, and those appointed by the elected officials, are perverting and distorting that Constitution even more because they do not lead in the direction of good governance?
Well, with due respect to our former President Olusegun Obasanjo, he has led this country. He has done his best, and you cannot tell me that all his policies and programs were the best for Nigerians, but he has done his best. But without joining issues with him, I believe that other leaders that came after him also did his best. And the current leader in the person of President Tinubu is the best thing that has ever happened to this country. He is observing the Constitution. And of course, he is the one that is creating room for the further amendment of the Constitution, which goes to suggest that he is a Democrat. He believes in the rule of the law, rule of law. He doesn't follow the Constitution. So I disagree with him that the current leadership in the country are not working in tandem with the provision of the Constitution. It is rather the opposite. But like I said, we can't join issues with him. He's one of our leaders. But we'll take part of his advice that is good, while we'll drop those that we feel that is too old for us to use.
Yeah, obviously you'll drop those that are critical of you and then pick the ones that are not. But let's just be clear, Senator, that you think the result of the deliberations of the patriots will be given adequate consideration by the National Assembly, that it will not be in vain, and that the National Assembly can be persuaded through reasoned argument, consensus building, and compelling evidence, as Senator Benga Daniel put it, that Nigeria is in dire need of a new constitutional framework that reflects the aspirations and realities of all its citizens.
Thank you so very much. Like I told you earlier, our doors are open for inputs from such elders. And let me also let you know that outside the zonal summit that we just observed, we are going to have another national public hearing that will take place in Abuja, where those inputs will be collected from such prominent Nigerians. And I must tell you, we are going to work with such inputs coming from people who have had a lot of experience in governance of this country and even in the international community. So it's a welcome development, and if their position is the best, then we are going to go by that. But if the position of the younger Nigerians appears to be the best, definitely majority will have their way because this is a democratic setting.
Right, let's turn to that Senate Constitution Review Committee, of which you are a member, and what it's doing at the moment. I mean, what are the main proposals that you're receiving from the public? I mean, let's start with requests, I think, coming through to the committee, focusing on the creation of new states. I think you mentioned that, the establishment of new local governments, as well as the creation of state police. I understand the committee has been getting quite a lot of such requests.
Yes, like I said earlier, among the most prominent bills we discussed in the course of the zonal summit was bills calling for creation of more states within the Southeast geopolitical zone. In that regard, we got a request for creation of other states for the people of Nsukka and part of Igbo-speaking Benue. We also got a request for creation of Aba State from the Aba axis and part of Imo State. We also got a request for creation of an state within part of Imo and Anambra. And of course, we also got a request from our brothers across the Niger calling for the creation of an Neoma State. That is the Igbo-speaking Delta part of Delta State. So, in all, like I said earlier, it is time for Nigeria to look towards the southeast part of Nigeria and give them additional one state in the spirit of fairness and equity. And I believe that when that is done, most of the agitations in southeast will be a thing of the past, because when you look at it, you begin to ask, what is the sin of the people of southeast? If other geopolitical zones will have between 6 and 7 states, and the southeast zone Nigeria has only 5 states, there is no equity here, and for absolute peace and normalcy to be observed, you must do equity to every part of the country. So outside those 4 requests for state creation, we also had a wonderful debate on requests, calling for state police. And they stemmed their argument that the current security challenges appears to overwhelm the Nigerian police, hence the need to establish state commands of state police to complement what the federal conventional police is doing. And I must tell you, this argument had its way, because majority of the people, in fact, it was unanimously agreed that state police should be allowed. So outside that, we also looked at so many other issues that affect us as a nation. And in the course of events, I will open more on that. Thank you.
Right. Well, let's just be clear, because, I mean, you were heading the committee that went to hold public consultations in the southeast, which is why you're focusing on that area. But, I mean, there were a lot of other consultations across Nigeria, and the call for more states wasn't limited to the southeast. I mean, I believe there were people calling for more states in the northwest and other parts of the country. And what about the devolution of powers? I mean, is that something that the committee is also deliberating upon in terms of this constitutional amendment process?
Well, before I come to devolution of power, yes, I also saw some other zones that are calling for creation of more states. But I think they are saying so for the sake of saying that. It is only the people of Southeast that merits this call. And I want to put it on record that any other zone that is calling for creation of more states in that zone is not being patriotic and honest. Hence, it is only the Southeast zone that is short of state, and they should be recognized and given additional, at least, one more state to rank with other geopolitical zones. On the issue of power devolution, of course, that is another area of public interest. So many arguments were made in that regard. Some argued that the local government should enjoy its autonomy and should be recognized in the Constitution as a third tier of government, whereas many argued that local government should be completely removed, from the Constitution and be allowed to be managed by the state, so that any state that want to create 100 local governments can do so, in as much as such states, can cater for their local government. By so doing, there will be equity, there will be free rancor in the system. So some also argued that most of the items in the exclusive legislative list should be removed and be allowed to operate within the concurrent legislative list to enable the state to make laws therein. For example, when we talk of fiscal policies, in the area of solid minerals, people are agitating that the state being the landlord, should own what is in the land, and that they are in a better position to harness what is in the land and pay tax and royalties to the federal government. And I think I agree with this submission, because I must tell you, I'm also a member of a Senate Committee on Solid Minerals. We had an oversight visit in one of the states where they mine coal. And in the course of our interaction with the miners, and I asked them, how much do you pay a royalty to federal government per ton of coal? And he told me they pay 900 naira. And I asked him, how much do you pay to state as IGR per ton of coal? And he says 6,000 naira. You can see that the state, as at present, is taking more royalties from the solid minerals more than the federal government. So in view of this instance, I believe that the state should be in a better position to man some of these mineral deposits within our states and pay taxes and royalties to federal government. By so doing, I believe that our economy will generate more revenue and be more strengthened. Thank you.
Right. We're almost out of time, Senator. Just very briefly, I understand that electoral reforms also generated a lot of attention. The idea, for instance, of independent candidacy, which would allow individuals to contest elections without party affiliations. And there was also the issue of diaspora voting. Can you talk about that just very briefly before we have to go?
Yes, diaspora voting is one of the bills that is before the Senate, and it is gathering momentum. And there are other sort of electoral reforms that are before us. Some are saying that the elections should be conducted in one day. That is, the 5 elections should be conducted in one day. And they stem their argument on the fact that it will save cost and it will also encourage voter participation. So all these things will be looked into. And of course, the issue of independent candidacy also had its way, in the sense that there should be an open door, so that if you are foreclosed by a political party and you're a popular candidate, you can actually stand the election, to represent your people. So all these things put together will be considered as we move forward. And at the end of the day, Nigerians will choose the best option for them.
So again, very briefly, what happens after these hearings? The committee will collate the findings, draft recommendations, and initiate the process for amendments. Just talk us through that very briefly.
Yes, after the zonal summit, of course, our brother, the House of Reps, are also observing their own zonal summit. At the end of it all, we are going to have a national, public hearing on all those issues, where all those issues will be trimmed down one by one, and Nigerians will make their choice. Thereafter, we will resume legislative functions on the floor of the Senate. And at the end of the day, Nigerians will have a common stand, which the President and Commander-in-Chief will be assented to as a comprehensive review of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, or any other name as may be deemed fit.
Right. Okay, Senator, I want to thank you very much indeed. We appreciate the time you've taken to talk to us. Senator Nwebonyi Peter is the Deputy Chief Whip of the Senate and member of the Senate Committee on Constitution Review, and he was talking to me from our studios in Lagos. Thank you very much indeed.